The president is resisting calls to release his tax returns and calling the people who investigate him traitors. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Before we get to Trump, a bunch of other crazy stuff happened today. For example, you might remember Michael Avenatti, the guy who used to be Stormy Daniels' lawyer. Well, today Avenatti was charged with 36 counts of fraud, perjury, failure to pay taxes, embezzlement, and other financial crimes. And 36 counts is a lot, but when you look at him, you think, I thought it would have been higher. And the details of the indictment are truly insane. The LA Times reports that Avenatti stole millions of dollars from 5 clients. He put $2.5 million of that money into the purchase of a private jet. And in the other case, the money landed in the accounts of GB Autosport LLC, which managed Avenatti's race car team. How is this the first we're hearing of Michael Avenatti's race car team? That's the dead giveaway that someone is bad news. The race car track is where James Bond meets the villain for the first time as he's pulling off his helmet and his racing gloves. Mr. Bond, should we speak somewhere quieter? Also, did you not see Goodfellas? When you rip people off, you got to play it cool with the money. You're like a guy who buys a Ferrari and asks for the vanity plate, bank robber. And while he was doing this, Avenatti was actively putting himself in the spotlight. He said he was going to run for president in 2020. He made more appearances on CNN than the words breaking news, and a lot of people fell for Avenatti, probably because his job description was always attorney and not race car team owner. While that was happening, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange was also arrested in London, where he was dragged out of the Ecuadorian embassy looking like Santa Claus with a manifesto. You're all naughty, I have it on my list. I mean, based on that treatment, I can't wait to read what Assange writes on the Ecuador Embassy's Airbnb page. Now, Ecuador had granted Assange asylum in their embassy, but withdrew it, which allowed UK authorities to arrest him. According to the Daily Beast, Ecuador imposed a new and detailed set of rules on its fugitive guests, banning unannounced visitors and requiring Assange to pay his own medical bills, clean up after himself in the bathroom, and tend to the well-being, food, cleanliness, and proper care of his cat. Assange bristled at the restrictions and took Ecuador's foreign ministry to court. He took them to court over his cat. Usually people go to court to get restraining orders against their cats. Please, Your Honor, he keeps glaring at me like he wants to kill me. Now look, you can think Assange is a creep, which he is, and also be worried about what this means for press freedom, but one person who's always been very clear about where he stands on WikiLeaks is Donald Trump, and yet, when Trump was asked today about WikiLeaks, which he repeatedly praised throughout the campaign, he pretended he didn't know anything about it.
Mr. President, do you still love WikiLeaks?
I know nothing about WikiLeaks. It's not my thing.
Oh, it's not your thing. Well, what is your thing?
You know, there are 15 players capable of winning, and I guess you could say there are a lot more than that. They're great players. I don't think a field for the Masters has ever been this deep. I was watching late last night, and they were going over the different players. I think the field has never been so deep, but always Phil and Tiger and Dustin. I mean, you have so many great players, but they were just saying they're younger, they're stronger, they've never hit the ball this long, they've never hit the ball this accurately, they've never putted better than they do now. You know, the whole thing is pretty incredible, but the field is very, very deep. I think it's going to be a great Masters.
That's the most coherent answer he's ever given. And it wasn't even that coherent. If being president was just answering golf questions, this guy would be George Washington. But seriously, how can you say WikiLeaks is not your thing? Your government just arrested a guy whose organization you repeatedly praised throughout the campaign, and you're acting like someone just offered you weed at a party. Oh, no thanks, man. That's not my thing. Also, do you not remember when you said all of this stuff?
The sad part is we don't talk about WikiLeaks because it's incredible.
You see so much from these WikiLeaks. You see so much. Boy, I love reading those WikiLeaks.
I'll tell you, this WikiLeaks stuff is unbelievable. This WikiLeaks is like a treasure trove.
WikiLeaks is amazing.
WikiLeaks, I love WikiLeaks.
I love WikiLeaks. He said it. He said it like the guy at an end of a rom-com who can finally admit he's in love with his best friend. I can finally say it, I love Carol. While Trump was dodging questions about his previous support for WikiLeaks, he was also dodging questions about everything from the Mueller report to his tax returns. Last week, Democrats requested 6 years of Trump's personal and business tax information from 2013 to 2018, including individual tax returns and returns from 8 businesses linked to Trump. 8 businesses. Of course, it's hard to find those returns since 7 of those businesses went bankrupt years ago. If you want to find the tax returns for Trump steaks or Trump vodka, you have to go deep into the IRS basement and look in the box labeled obvious scams. But the law is clear. Democrats on the House Ways and Means Committee have the power to request Trump's tax returns. And yet, Trump told reporters yesterday he would just flat out ignore the request, using the same obviously false excuse he's been using since 2016. He's under audit. And towards the end of his rambling answer, he found a way to start bragging about his businesses.
While I'm under audit, I won't do it. If I'm not under audit, I would do it. I had no problem with it. But while I'm under audit, I would not give my taxes. There's no law whatsoever. Now, I will say this. I would love to give them, but I'm not going to do it while I'm under audit. What I have done is approximately a 104-page summary and really in great detail of assets and values, and nobody wants to go over that because it's so good. I built a great company, one of the best companies. I have some of the greatest assets in the world. I did a good job.
Well, now he's just doing affirmations in public. I did a good job. I'm good at business. My wife does like me. Also, can you please just drop this dumb audit excuse? It's obviously fake. You've been saying this since 2016. There's no way it's taken the IRS 3 years to go through your tax returns. And if it has, that doesn't make you look great. If you told someone it took you a week to clean your kitchen, they'd be like, how up was your kitchen? And while Trump is just ignoring the law on his tax returns, he's also sounding increasingly unhinged on the Russia investigation. Now, because Trump keeps lying about it, we have to just take a step back here and remember how all of this got started. Russia hacked the Democrats' emails while they were doing business deals with Trump and making contact with Trump campaign officials, and the entire time these people were lying about it. And then when the FBI started investigating it, Trump asked the director to shut it down and pledge his loyalty to Trump. And when he refused, Trump fired him. And then he said on TV he fired him because of the Russia investigation. He told the Russians he fired him because of the Russia investigation. And then because his Republican attorney general had recused himself, his Republican deputy attorney general appointed his special counsel, Robert Mueller, who is a registered Republican. And while this was happening, Putin also gave Trump a soccer ball. Which was definitely the first time Trump ever saw a soccer ball. Thank you for this beautiful gift. I'm gonna say a Russian bowling ball. And it probably has, when you open it, a littler bowling ball in it, and then another little one, and then a little one. And hopefully at the end, a tiny marshmallow. I wish I didn't have to keep recapping all this stuff every time we talk about it. I'm starting to think we're just going to need a permanent scroll that stays up throughout the show. But I have to keep recapping it because Trump keeps lying about it. Yesterday, his attorney general repeated Trump's conspiracy theory that his campaign was spied on. And then Trump suggested the investigation was somehow illegal or unwarranted, and even said the people investigating him were traitors.
It was an illegal investigation. It was started illegally. Everything about it was crooked. Every single thing about it. There were dirty cops. These were bad people. And this was an attempted coup. This was an attempted takedown of a president. This was an illegal witch hunt. And everybody knew it. And they knew it too. And they got caught. And what they did was treason.
My God, man, now you're accusing people of coups and treason? I'd say you should start growing a dictator beard, but based on your actual hair, I'm not sure how that would look. This is why it's crucial that decisions involving the Mueller report remain independent of Trump. And yet yesterday, when his Attorney General William Barr was asked if he briefed the White House on the Mueller report, Barr's answer was very evasive.
Has anyone in the White House seen any of the report?
You know, I'm not gonna, you know, as I say, I'm landing the plane right now, and you know, I've been willing to discuss my letters and the process going forward, but the report's going to be out next week, and I'm just not going to get into the details of the process until the plane's on the ground.
The plane has been on the ground. Mueller landed the plane. You're the crew guy refusing to drive the little gate thingy up to the door so we can get off the plane. This is why we need aggressive oversight of the Trump administration, whether it's on the Mueller report or his tax returns, and yet Republicans are doing the opposite. They're protecting him. For example, after the Democratic chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, Richard Neal, submitted his formal request to the IRS for Trump's tax returns, Louisiana Senator John Kennedy went on TV and straight up called Neal a moron.
Chairman Neal, powerful man, head of Ways and Means. I know he's an adult, but I don't think he's like a real adult. He says that he needs Trump's tax returns. He says it's policy, not politics. He has said, I think on CNN, that the reason he needs them is that he needs to determine how well the IRS is auditing taxpayers. I can't believe he really thinks the American people are going to fall for that. It must really suck to be that dumb.
It doesn't suck to be that dumb. It sucks for your boss to be that dumb. That's the guy you answer to. Maybe think about where your life is at. You're a United States Senator and you take marching orders from a guy who once got on Air Force One with toilet paper stuck to his shoe. Republicans in Congress keep trying to defend Trump from Democrats, but their efforts keep falling flat. And the dumbest example of that came this week during a hearing on Trump's climate policies. Democrats called former Secretary of State John Kerry as a witness, and during the hearing, Republican Congressman Thomas Massie from Kentucky tried to question Kerry's credentials, specifically his college degree. Kerry has a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science, a common degree that lots of people have, and yet Massie thought it was some kind of brilliant gotcha to point that out, resulting in one of the dumbest lines of questioning in the history of American politics.
It sounds like you're questioning the credentials of the president's advisors currently, but I don't think we should question your credentials today. Isn't it true you have a science degree from Yale? What's that?
Bachelor of Arts degree.
Is it a political science degree?
Yes, political science.
So how do you get
My
a
regret.
Bachelor of Arts in a science?
Well, it's liberal arts education and degree. It's a bachelor.
Okay, so it's not really science. So I think it's somewhat appropriate that somebody with a pseudoscience degree is here pushing pseudoscience in front of our committee today. I want to ask you...
Are you serious? I mean, this is really serious happening here?
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say it is a serious happening. And that is the perfect phrasing because this whole Trump era feels like a horror movie called A Serious Happening. This is an actual member of Congress who can't wrap his head around the fact that you can get a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science, despite the fact that he himself has a degree from MIT. I mean, why stop there, Massie? Senator Kerry, you're a married man, correct? Then please explain to us how you could possibly have a bachelor's degree. Also, not that anything matters anymore, but that's the same John Kerry who was falsely criticized by conservatives, not for avoiding Vietnam, but for going and supposedly doing a bad job. Meanwhile, these same conservatives now heap praise on Lieutenant Bonespurs over here, whose only Purple Heart is the one struggling to get air through his gravy-clogged veins. Again, nothing matters, because these are the people protecting the president in Congress. The president refuses to release his tax returns and calls anyone who investigates him treasonous. And Republicans actually expect us to believe that they're the party of the Constitution and the rule of law. I don't know if anyone still believes that, but if they do...
It must really suck to be that dumb.
This has been A Closer Look.